Alrighty, we are set. Okay. So just for the sake of the recording and all, I'd love to welcome everyone present in here, and also my core team members. I can see Lewis, David, and Emmanuel are present for their continued support to ensure that at least impact is made in our community, and also everyone that is present again. So I'd love to introduce our speaker today. As you are well aware, today's session is titled Google Coding Competitions. That's the theme for today. And our guest is Thomas Muguya, who is a software engineer at the ZIG. And he's a former student for the University of Zambia who did computer science. So a warm welcome to Thomas Muguya. Thank you so much for sparing time out of your busy schedule to join us and share with us. So I think due to time, I'll take it over to Thomas to continue the session, and if we'll have to make announcements, we'll do that at the end after the question and answer session. So Thomas, thank you so much. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Jackson, for having me here. And thank you so much to everybody that has decided to show up for this interesting session. So as Jackson mentioned, I'm a software engineer at the ZIG. Then two other things about me. The second one is that I love to write code. And the last one is that I love taking part in coding competitions. I've always enjoyed coding competitions since the time I could write code. So it's very it's really a pleasure to be here and talk about Google's coding competitions. So as Jackson talked about the title of this event, it's entitled Google's Coding Competitions. So that's basically what I'm going to be talking about here. So without further ado, I'm going to be sharing my screen. So please let me know when you see it. And I'm going to have my video off just so that we do not have network issues. So I believe you can see my screen now.
Yes, very clear.
All right.
Yes.
Okay. So welcome to today's session, guys. Once more, Google Coding Competitions. So first of all, I would love us to look at the agenda for today so that we have an overview of what we're going to be talking about this evening. So the first thing that I'm going to talk about is why you should take part in coding competitions as a software engineer or a software developer. I believe the majority of you here are people that enjoy coding as much as I do. And that's why you've probably shown up here. Then the other thing that I'll dive into is Google's coding competitions themselves. So first of all, look at HashCode. Then we'll look at CodeJam, and then we'll look at Kickstart. So that's our agenda for today. So having looked at the agenda, let's get straight into why you should take part in coding competitions as a software engineer or a software developer. So firstly, taking part in coding competitions comes with many benefits. You probably wouldn't be doing something if it has no benefits for you. So taking part in coding competitions comes with many benefits, and these are outlined as follows. So first of all, coding competitions foster independent reasoning. So what does this mean? When you take part in a coding competition, most of the problems that you find there are problems whose solutions you cannot find online. If you have ever taken part in a coding competition and tried to find a solution online, you probably wouldn't find one. That's because the problems that are given in these coding competitions are problems that help you to think independently. So because you cannot find the solutions online, this forces you to reason on your own. It forces you to apply independent reasoning. So whatever solutions you're going to come up with in that particular coding competition is a solution that's unique to yourself. That's the beauty of coding competitions, or that's just one of the key benefits of coding competitions. The other benefit is that coding competitions train you to think in terms of scalability and efficiency, which is a very, very good mindset for a software engineer. I cannot emphasize this point more. So when you look at scalability as well as efficiency of computer programs, we're talking about things like, if I were to build an algorithm to sort, let's say, elements, these elements could be integers, these elements could be strings, the question that you would ask yourself is, how could this algorithm be more efficient? Or how will this scale for 1 million input elements, say 10 million, 10 billion, and so on and so forth. So whenever you are developing computer algorithms or whenever you're writing your computer programs, it's always important to look at scalability as well as the efficiency of the algorithms that you're writing. So coding competitions actually help you to do this. The reason is that whenever you're taking part in a coding competition, you are given memory as well as time limits. You cannot just write a program that performs what you wish to perform at the end of the day. That program must be very, very efficient. It must be able to finish, it must be able to solve the problem, or rather that solution must be very, very, very efficient. It must be able to solve the given problem within the shortest time limit as well as within the smallest memory resources. So coding competitions train you to think in terms of that. Like, how can my algorithm be more efficient? How can this solution or this algorithm that I've developed solve the problem within the shortest period of time? Another good point is that, like I mentioned, the memory and time limits imposed on you during the coding competitions help you to become an efficient programmer. It's not just about writing the code or solving the problem. It's also about looking at how scalable your solution is, or how quickly your solution can solve the given problem. Okay. One other important benefit of coding competitions is that it helps you improve your problem-solving skills. If you ever asked a good programmer what programming is all about, they'll tell you to say, programming is about problem solving. If you cannot solve problems, you cannot write code, because all the programs that you'll be writing involve solving a problem in one way or another. So coding competitions help improve your coding skills. And if you look at today's world, good problem solvers are needed more than ever, because computing problems are getting more and more sophisticated. Look at the problems that we have today. We have self-driving cars, we have augmented reality, we have virtual reality, we have machine learning, and all these areas require good problem-solving skills to tackle. Yesterday's computers were not able to solve any of these problems that we've given here. But because of good programmers, because of programmers that have good problem-solving skills, because of programmers that take their time to solve these problems, we have all these things today. Self-driving cars, augmented reality, virtual reality, machine learning, all these require that you be a good problem solver, you think outside the box, and so on. Then one other benefit is that coding competitions foster teamwork. If you have ever taken part in a coding competition where you you code as a team, then you attest to this, that it really fosters teamwork. Because when you are seated as a group trying to solve a problem, each person brings their own way of thinking, and when you combine those thoughts, you get to solve the problem at hand. Jackson himself can testify because him and I have actually taken part in a coding competition together. So he can actually attest to this. Because most coding competitions require you to be in a team, it fosters teamwork, like I mentioned. And teamwork is very, very essential for software engineering. The point is that you cannot build software alone. If you look at softwares like the IDEs you use to write your code, do you think you can write such code alone, or do you think you can write such software alone? If you look at an operating system, if you look at all the applications that you use, quite all right, there may be small applications that one developer could work on entirely, but the typical problems we're talking about here are problems that would require several people to work on. Look at an operating system. Look at cloud platforms like Google Cloud or even Microsoft Azure. All those programs are really, really complex for one programmer to write alone. So the teamwork is really, really essential for software engineering, and coding competitions actually help you to foster that teamwork in you. So the other thing is, coding competitions help to solidify your understanding of data structures and how you can apply them to solve real-world problems. For example, a stack is used in symbol balancing. If you are a person who's knowledgeable about data structures, queues, lists, stacks, then you've probably met the symbol balancing problem. Okay, so coding competitions also expose you to a wide array of problems. These are typical problems that you would find in the real world, like the symbol balancing problem that I just mentioned. Let's look at the symbol balancing problem. So if you have come across data structures, you probably know what a stack is. So a stack is basically a data structure that works in this way. That's if you've never heard of it. It works like a stack of books. If you were piling up books, you start with the first book at the bottom, second book at the top of that one, and so on and so forth. And what you discover is that when you were piling up the books, the first book was the gray book in this case. But as you get to unpile those books, as you get to remove this pile, you discover that the book that you would remove first is the book that you had put last. And in this case, it's this blue book. So that's basically how a stack works in a layman's language. So the symbol problem, the symbol balancing problem that I talked about earlier is basically what your compiler uses to know if you've missed a curly brace or not. So if you look at this mathematical expression or this statement that's in a programming language, you get to notice that you have about 4 brackets. So how does the compiler know that this brace, this opening brace, has a matching closing brace, and that this other opening brace also has a matching closing brace? All this is made possible because of a stack. So typical coding competition problems you would find are the ones like the one that I've just mentioned, like this problem. So you'll find many of these problems that help you to apply the data structures that you have learned. So it helps you solidify your understanding of data structures. For a person like me who's familiar with coding competitions, I can testify that coding competitions have really helped me to know how to apply data structures. Because when I look at a problem in a coding competition, the first thing I think of is what data structure can I use to solve this problem? Because once you're able to, for example, know the data structure that will solve that problem in the best possible way, then you probably even have an idea of how to solve the problem. So that's just one other benefit of coding competitions. Then, having looked at the benefits that come with coding competitions, like I mentioned earlier, you probably wouldn't, waste time in doing something that has no benefits for you. But since we've now looked at the benefits that come with coding competitions, it would be now interesting to look at what coding competitions Google has to offer. So let's look at Google's coding competitions. So Google has 3 coding competitions that you can take part in as a programmer. So the first one is Google Hashcode. The second one is Google Code Jam. And then the last one is Google Kickstart. So we'll look at each of these coding competitions in succession. So we'll basically look at what's involved in these coding competitions, how you can register, how you can take part, and the prizes that are there, and so on. So let's first of all start with Google Code Jam. So Google Code Jam is one of the most interesting competitions that I've ever participated in. So let's look at what Google Code Jam is all about. So the first thing is that Google Code Jam is an annual coding competition. This means you can take part every year until you feel like, oh, I think I can no longer take part in coding competitions. But as long as you still have interest, you can actually take part in this coding competition each and every year. So Google Code Jam has been around since 2003. And then in this coding competition, you participate as an individual. So attendance is usually in the range of 30,000 or more. So you can see how huge this coding competition is. So when you are competing in this coding competition, you are basically competing against 30,000 or more other people. So you can see how intense this coding competition is. And it's very, very interesting. So registration for this year's Code Jam will open on March 1st. That's at 21 hours cut. And it will remain open until April 3rd cut. So you have a whole month of, applying for this competition or registering for this competition. So once the registration opens on March 1st, you have that whole month to apply or to register. So let's look at now how Code Jam is organized. So Google Code Jam has 5 rounds, namely the qualification round, round 1, which is split into round 1A, round 1B, and round 1C. And then we also have round 2. From round 2, we have round 3, and then the final round. So the first 4 rounds are held virtually, while the final round is typically held in person. But this may be subject to change, especially because of COVID and, yeah. So for each of the rounds, you'll be given a set of problems to solve. So each problem carries a designated number of points that are shown in the actual coding platform as you are participating. So having looked at an overview of the rounds, we'd like to take a look at the qualification round. So this is the first round in Google's Code Jam competition. So this round is 27 hours long. It's a very, very long round and very much interesting. If you've taken part in a coding competition that lasts at least 24 hours, then I respect you so much. But if you haven't, you might want to try something like Google Code Jam, where you get to sit down for a whole 27 hours trying to solve problems. But of course, if you are a very quick problem solver, it wouldn't take you that long to solve all the problems or to score enough points to qualify to make it to the first round. So this round is basically 27 hours long. During those 27 hours, you can nap, you can do your stuff. Just make sure that obviously you solved enough problems to make it to round 1. So round 1, or rather the qualification round, basically demands that you score at least 30 points so that you can make it to round 1. So like I mentioned earlier, Each problem is designated a number of points. So if a problem, say, has 14 points, you solve that problem, you get 14 points. And then once you make 30 points, you are good to go. Of course, you are free to solve any additional problems if you are really enjoying it. But once you make 30 points, then you are good to go. You've qualified to the first round. So each problem carries a number of points, like I said. And this year, the qualification round will be held on Saturday. That will be on April 2nd at 01. And then it will end on Sunday, April 3rd at 04. So that's a total of 27 hours to solve the given problems. Let's now look at round one. So round one is also held online. Like I mentioned, the first 4 rounds are held online. So it's conducted in 3 sub-rounds, namely round 1A, which is 2 hours 30 minutes long. So the longest is basically the qualification round, which is 27 hours long. All the other successive rounds are actually very, very short. So round 1B is also 2 hours 30 minutes long, and round 1C is 2 hours 30 minutes long as well. So you have a choice of participating in each of these rounds, provided that you haven't qualified to round 2. So what does this mean? So if you say, I'll participate in round 1A, if you don't qualify to round 2, you are free to participate in round 1B as well as round 1C. But if you take part in round 1A and make it to round 2, you can't participate in round 1B and round 1C. So you have a choice of participating in each of these. And if you do make it, you cannot participate in successive rounds, round ones. So for you to advance to round 2, that's in round 1, you must rank between the first and the 1,500 position inclusive from one of the sub-rounds in round 1. So a total of up to 4,500 contestants will advance to round 2. So in round 1, you must come out between first and 1,500 position, or in round 1B, you must also come out in the same position range as well as in round 1C. That's the only way for you to make it to round 2. So let's now look at CodeJams round 2. So round 2 is also held online. It's 2 hours 30 minutes long, just like round 1. And this year's round 2 will basically start on May 14th at 16 cuts once more. So basically once round 1 ends, you have a break of about 2 weeks for you to start round 2. So if you do qualify to round 2, you have 2 weeks in between round 1 and round 2 for you to do all your practice for round 2. So in order to advance to round 3, you must be ranked between first and 1,000th place. So 1,000 is included as well, is inclusive. So if you've noticed, the chances of making it to the following round for each successive round basically become more and more slim. If you look at the qualification round, you had everybody was able to qualify provided they scored at least 30 points. So everybody could qualify. But if you look at round 1, the chances became slimmer because round 1 you had to finish in between number 1 and number 1,500. And now if you look at round 2, you have to finish between number 1 and number 1,000. So basically the 500 have been stripped off. So with each successive round, the chances of making it get more and more slim. And it requires more and more problem solving skills from you and more energy. Now let's look at round 3. So round 3 is also conducted online. So it's 2 hours, 30 minutes long as well. And this year's round 3 will start on June 4th. And it will end the same day it will start at 16 hours, cut once more. And it will end at 18:30, cut as well. So in order for you to advance to the final round of code jump, you must be ranked between between the 1st and the 25th place in round 3. So now look at how the chances have become even slimmer for round 3. So for round 3, they are only taking now 25 people. So if you can't finish in the top 25, then, well, at least you made it to round 3. But you must finish in between 1st and 25th place in round 3 for you to make it to the final round. So now, let's look at the final round, which is basically the most interesting round. So this round is normally held in person, but the venue is subject to change as well as the tech itself at Google's own discretion. So in the final round, you'll be required to use Google's provided computer equipment as well as materials, but you are free to choose your own keyboard. So obviously, the reason why you are free to choose your own keyboard is because, you know, certain keyboards, it's easy to write, it's easy to type on certain keyboards, especially mechanical keyboards than others. So you are free to use your own keyboard, but any other computer equipment and materials will be provided by Google. And this round is 4 hours long. So here, you'll be competing against 25 other people because those are the ones that qualify from round 3, or rather 24 other people. And if you are here, obviously you are the 25th person. So this round is 4 hours long, and you'll be competing against 24 other people. So this year's final round will be held on August 6th. It will start at 15 and end the same day at 19. So now let's look at the prizes. Having looked at how the competition is organized, what you need to register, and all that, obviously you'll be more interested in what do I get at the end of the day, apart from the fact that it's helping me improve my coding as well as software engineering skills. So now let's look at the prizes. So if you're ranked in the top 1,000 from round 2, so you are eligible to receive a t-shirt from Google. So that's the first prize. Then if you do make it to the final round and you make at least one submission, you are eligible to receive the following cash prizes. So if you are in first place, you are eligible to receive $15,000. So for you guys who think in terms of business, you are probably thinking, oh, I could probably start a business or something with this amount of money. But yeah, if you're in first place, but obviously to make it in first place, you must be a really, really good problem solver. But you get 15,000 USD at the end of the day. In second place, you get 2,000 USD, and in third place, you get 1,000 USD. And everybody else from fourth place to 25th place will receive $100 each. So that's about the prizes. So if you feel like you're not somebody who would make use of $15,000, $2,000, $1,000, or even $100, then it would be good to take part in Google Code Jump. And of course, it's not just for the money. Obviously, you would network with people, you know, team members, and so on and so forth. So one other thing is Google may occasionally give away Google or even Google Code Jump branded objects, Google-related products, or other goodies to final round participants as part of their participation in the competition. So these goodies are, however, not supposed to be mistaken for or treated as prizes by the participants. They are basically, you know, surplus goodies that Google gives you on top of the prizes that you have. So now that we've looked at the first coding competition, which is basically the most interesting, let's look at Google Hashcode. So with Google Hashcode, like CodeJam, it's also an annual coding competition, so you would take part annually. So participants in here are required to form a group. If you remember Google Code Jam, you are supposed to participate as an individual. But obviously, during the online rounds, you could possibly form a team of people that you would solve the problems with. But during the final rounds, you'll be independent, of course, because there you are proctored, so you have to be independent. But during the qualification rounds, or rather the first 4 rounds, you're probably free to participate as a team, even though it's an individual participation competition. But with Google Hashcode, you're required to compete in a group of 2, 3, or even 4 members. So participants are required to form their team in the competition platform. So before the competition itself starts, you are required to form a team, and you are free to change the composition of that team. So if you feel, okay, I would like to be part of another team, you are free to go to that other team, provided that you are within the deadline that is specified on the Google Hashcode website. So there's a deadline for you to form teams and all that stuff. So once that deadline elapses, or once that deadline is reached, you can't change your team. And registration for this year's Hashcode is it actually opened on January 6th, and it will extend to February 23rd. So during this period, all the way up to January 23rd, you are free to register in the Google Hashcode competition. And this one is really, really interesting because you are participating as a team. Like, that's a requirement. You're supposed to participate as a team. So you need a minimum of 2 people and a maximum of 4 people in a team. So let's look at how Google Hashcode is organized. So Google Hashcode consists of 2 rounds. You have a qualification round, and then you have a final round. So this competition is unlike Code Jam, which had 5 rounds. It basically only has 2 rounds: the qualification round, which qualifies you to the final round, and the final round itself. So for each round, you are given a problem that will be published on the competition platform. So what you're basically supposed to do is you as a team must log into the competition platform. So the problem statement will specify the problem to be solved, as well as the scoring rules for submissions. And it also specifies technical details of the submission process and so on. So basically, all the details will be given on the platform itself. So you are free to use any programming language of your choice during this competition. Even in Google Code Jam, I forgot to mention that you are free to use any programming language of your choice. So if you're comfortable with JavaScript, you would probably use JavaScript. If you are comfortable with C#, you would use C#, C++, and so on. But one thing, in as much as you are free to use any programming language, you are supposed to keep in mind the data structures that are available to you in that programming language, because the data structures provide you with a starting point. If you look at programming languages like JavaScript, for those who are very familiar with JavaScript, sorry guys, I'm not discouraging anybody from using JavaScript, but one thing is JavaScript doesn't provide data structures like queues and certain data structures that are really, really important in a programming language. So you would prefer using, or it would be a good idea for you to use a programming language that provides those data structures so that you are quick. Because with JavaScript, you would have to, if you wanted to use a data structure that's not available there, you would probably have to implement it on your own. But now imagine the overhead of trying to create a stack on your own is just not worth it. So you probably use a programming language, or it's preferable to use a programming language that has very good data structures. Programming languages like C++, which the majority of the people in these competitions use, is very good because of its data structures. Another good programming language is C# as well as Java. Those programming languages are very mature, and they have very, very good data structures that you can utilize during the coding competition so that you don't stress yourself too much by implementing your own data structures. Then let's look at the qualification round of hashcode. So the qualification round is held online. Actually, Google Hashcode is an entirely online coding competition. So both the qualification round as well as the final round are held online. So you can create or join a team of 2 to 4 people. On the Hashcode website, there's a section where you can actually get to form a team. So the qualification round is 4 hours long. And for this year, the qualification round is scheduled for February 24th. So between now and February 24th, you have all the time to do all your practice as well as come up with a team, and also make sure that you register your team and so on. So it will be held on February 24th at 19:30 cut and at 23:30 cut the same day. So during this round, you can participate with what is known as a virtual hub. So these hubs, so a hub is basically a participant-organized group of Hashcode teams that are affiliated with a university, office, or organization, and they are designed to allow you to connect with your local developer communities while still competing in your team of 2 to 4 people. So joining a hub is very much optional, but it's a great way for you to connect with your peers as well as grow your coding skills. So if you form a team, let's say you have a team of 4 people, and then you would like to connect with other teams from other schools, from other organizations, then you can actually join a virtual hub. So you can join this virtual hub on Google itself, or on Google Hashcode's website itself, and then from there you can pick from a number of hubs that you wish to connect with. This helps you again to foster teamwork as well as to bring ideas together with other people. So the jury, during the qualification round, so the jury will basically select between 30 and 50 people or rather 30 and between 30 and 50 of the highest scoring teams. So that will constitute of no more than 150 finalists to advance to the World Finals. So you have to make sure that however you are solving the problem, you have to make sure that you get a very, very high score, because only between 30 and 50 of the highest scoring teams are picked to make it to the final round. So having looked at the qualification round, we can look at the World Finals. So the World Finals are held online as well. Like I mentioned, this is an entirely online coding competition. So the World Finals for this year are scheduled to be held on April 30th at 8 cut, and they'll end the same day at 12 cut. And these are the prizes for Hashcode. So you may be eligible for any of the following cash prizes if you advance to, attend, as well as compete in the World Finals. Excuse me. So the money specified in this table is basically the money that will be given to each of the team members. So if you are a team of 4, each of you would receive 4,000 USD. So that would be a total of 4 by 4. That would be 16,000 USD for a team. If you are in second place, each of you would receive a 2,000 USD. And if you are in third place, each of you would receive 1,000 USD. So that's on the prizes of Google Hashcode. So if you feel like you would do it at 4,000 USD, 2,000 USD, 1,000 USD, well, Google Hashcode is there for you. Then, like in CodeJam, Google may also give out Google branded objects as well as Google related products or other goodies to World Finals participants as part of their participation in the Hashcode competition. So again, these goodies are not prizes and must not be treated as prizes by participants. The prizes are actually the money prizes that I guess that we just looked at earlier. So members of a team that submit a solution that scores at least 1 point during either the qualification round or the World Finals are eligible to receive a downloadable as well as a printable certificate, which will be accessible from their contest profile approximately a month after each round's completion. So this certificate is really, really good for you, especially if you are a software engineer that intends to work for coding competitions, or rather for tech giants. If you're somebody that would really, really love to work for a tech giant like Microsoft, Google, Intel, and so on, this certificate will actually gain you those points. Because these tech giants always want good problem solvers. No wonder their interviews include algorithmic problems. So if you took part in Hashcode, you stand a very good chance of, getting hired by any of those tech giants. Sorry about that. So now let's look at the final competition, which is Google Kickstart. So with Google Kickstart, this is also an annual coding competition, just like CodeJam as well as Hashcode. But there is very little at stake with Kickstart, as you'll see shortly, compared to the other two. So Kickstart consists of 8 rounds that take place on different dates and times. So you can participate as a team or as an individual. There are no restrictions with Kickstart. The initial registration window will open on February 1st at 18 cut and will close on November 12th at 8 cut. So how is Kickstart organized? Kickstart has 3 practice sessions, namely session 1 all the way up to 3. So there are 8 rounds, namely rounds A to H. Let's look at the practice sessions. So each practice session is 83 hours long. And practice session number 1 takes place before the competition itself actually starts. So this year it will take place on February 14, 18 cut, and will end on February 18th at 5 cut. So practice session number 2 takes place after round C and before round D. So first of all, you have practice session number 1 before the competition itself actually starts, and then you take part in round A, round B, and round C. And then after round C, there is another practice session, which is practice session number 2. From there, you take part in round D and E. And then after round E and before the start of round F, you have practice session number 3. So 3 practice sessions for you there, 83 hours long each. And then let's now look at the actual rounds away from the practice rounds. So Kickstart, as mentioned earlier, as rounds A to H. Each of these rounds is 3 hours long. And all the rounds are basically online. So you are free to take part as a team, as an individual, at your home, or anywhere where you feel comfortable. You can also participate in any of the rounds regardless of the performance in the previous rounds. So like I mentioned, there's very little at stake with Kickstart. The other competitions actually require that you perform well in the first, previous rounds. But with Kickstart, it doesn't matter how well you performed in previous rounds. You are basically eligible to take part in each of the rounds. So there's very little at stake. So round A is scheduled for March 20th at 6 cut. And if you would like to know more information about the schedules for each of the rounds, you can actually visit this link. So with the prizes, like I said, there is very little at stake with Google's Kickstart. So unlike the other 2 competitions, Kickstart basically has no prizes. It's basically meant for fun. as well as improvement of your coding and problem skills. Because when you are in a coding competition, it's different from when you are actually just writing code on your own. Because in a coding competition, you have time, as well as performance, as well as the fact that you're competing against other people. So the energy that you bring forth to your competition is obviously different from the way you would be practicing on your own. So it's always good to take part in these coding competitions because you get to become a good problem solver and you get to think on the spot. So these are the links to, if you'd like to know more information about these, of course, obviously I didn't exhaust all the details, especially the rules and all that stuff. So if you'd like to know more about each of these coding competitions, then it would be good for you to visit each of these links. These links will be shared so that you can know more about these competitions if you'd like to take part. And if you've noticed, this talk has actually been held at the beginning of the year, and that's for a reason. That's because none of the competitions have actually taken place yet. So you are free to take part in each of these mentioned competitions because you have a whole, you have the whole time between the time the competition starts and now to actually do all your practice, to form teams for those competitions that require you to participate as teams, and so on and so forth. So at this point, this is what I thought I could share with you guys. If you love code as much as I do, then you would probably take part in at least one of these coding competitions. Like I mentioned, there are so many benefits that come with these coding competitions, and all of those benefits, or the list is probably not exhaustive, but there are obviously other benefits that come with taking part in a coding competition. I am a person who loves to take part in coding competitions, like I mentioned earlier, and I've taken part in several coding competitions, including IEEE's IEEE Extreme, as well as ICPC, and all of these Google's coding competitions. So coding competitions are really, really interesting if you want to improve your coding skills, if you want to become a very good problem solver, if you want to be a good software engineer, all things in terms of efficiency of algorithms, as well as scalability, then coding competitions are really something that you would like to take part in. From here, I would like to give the floor back to Jackson. That's what I had for you guys. I hope you found this very, very helpful.
Thank you so much, Thomas. Thank you for that brilliant presentation. I, for one, enjoyed every part of it, and see, I got to learn, a lot of things, together with the, the advice that you gave in terms of the code and the algorithms. I really enjoyed that part. So at this moment in time, I'll give an opportunity to anyone that has a question they can just turn on their mic and ask, and Thomas would be more than glad to respond. Okay, so for Mwelwa, I don't know if I should read your questions out, or you'll be able to just switch on your mic and ask for yourself.
For Google Code Jams, do the points accumulate? For example, the points you got in round 1, do they add up to the points in round 2?
Thank you very much for that interesting question, Mola. So Each round has got its own set of points. So round 1 has got its own set of points. Once you advance to round 2, you start afresh. You have you start afresh, and you have you have the points designated for round 2 strictly, and so on and so forth.
All right, thank you.
Hope that answers the question.
Oh, yes.
Oh
Yes,
yeah.
thank you.
I also have a question. Am I audible enough?
Very much audible.
Oh yeah. So my question is there a age limit? Like, are you allowed to take part in the same competitions even after you are not an undergraduate? For example, maybe like you who has graduated already. Are you allowed to take part in coding competitions, or maybe there's something like maybe the age between, I don't know, maybe 20 to 25 or something?
Well, most coding competitions, Google inclusive, do not really have an age limit. But they have a minimum age but they have a minimum age. But the maximum, they barely have no restrictions on that. So you can take part even if you've graduated, you know, and so on and so forth. So for example, like myself, I'm still willing to take part in coding competitions for this year because I still find them really, really interesting. So hope that answers your question.
Oh yeah, thank you very much. So basically, any age. So if it's is it the hash code, the first coding competition, you can be competing with people maybe who are even lecturers out there, because we all want money, right?
Obviously. But the thing is, most of those older people do not really take part in these coding competitions because they probably, you know, they probably are not as energetic as we people, as we much younger people. So the majority of the participants that you'll find in such coding competitions are participants that are very much young, participants that are mostly below 30. So you don't have to feel intimidated and so on. I know it's probably not your plan to be participating in a coding competition with a lecturer who teaches possibly algorithms and so on. They'll probably be way, I don't know how many times better than you. So most of them don't actually take part in these coding competitions. So you have nothing to be intimidated about.
Well, okay, thank you. I also have another question. So, is it a request? Yeah. So, do you have an example? I don't know if Google, the online platform, we've got previous example questions of the same coding competitions for the respective coding competitions. In terms of examples, you I think you stressed the point of focusing on data structures and algorithms. Yeah, I don't know if you have those sample questions. If you do, you can share. If not, then we can take part in the kickstart where you don't have to, I don't know, maybe stress or too much.
Okay. So previous problems are always available on the competition's website itself. So for Google Code Jam, you'll find them on the Google Code Jam website. For Hashcode, you'll find them on the Google Hashcode website. So it's always good, before you actually take part in any of these coding competitions, it's always good to take a glance at what problems are there, like how are problems presented, so that you have a feel for the problems that you're going to solve rather than just jumping in. Then you mentioned that possibly because I'm assuming you are a beginner, so you think maybe you should only take part in Kickstart because there is little at stake. But I encourage you to take part in each of them because you have nothing to lose at the end of the day. If you took part in Code Jam and didn't make it to round 2, to round 3, or even to the final round, at least you did take part, which is the most important thing. You had the fun, you had, you know, you improved your coding skills, you worked as a team, and so on and so forth. So it's always good to take part in each and every of these coding competitions, provided you can, of course. So do not shy away from any of those because there's so much at stake. You have really nothing to lose at the end of the day. I hope that answers your question.
Oh, yes, sir. Thank you.
All right, yeah, very much welcome. Anybody else with a question, guys?
Oh, yes, I have a question. What happens during the practice sessions in Kickstart? Since I saw some of them were like 83 hours.
Yeah, so during those practice sessions, what you're basically doing is you're basically using the platform itself to solve problems against other competitors that would be available at the time that you'll be practicing. So during that period, you are free to take part in those practice sessions until the competition, until the 83 hours elapses. But obviously, if you want to practice more rigorously, you would want to look at the problems from previous competitions that are available on the competitions website itself, so that you can strengthen your coding skills before the actual competition.
Oh, all right, thank you very much. Oh, yes, are the same kind of do you find the same kind of problems in Kickstart, also in CodeJam and Hashcode? Are the kind of problems the same?
Well, I would say all of them are literally problems, generally speaking. So they'll give you a set of problems that are solvable within the time limits according to the competition itself, obviously. They wouldn't give you a problem that you wouldn't solve in a given within the given time. So the problems vary in the sense that each competition has got a set of problems that are solvable within the given time. So that's how the problems vary. But if you look at Hashcode, it's a little bit different from Google Kickstart as well as Google CodeJam in the sense that you are given one full problem that is a problem, a very sort of big problem that you have to optimize according to the given specifications and all that. So yeah, the problems do vary a bit according to the coding competition that they are given in. Hope that answers your question.
Oh, yes, yes, it does. I have one more question. What kind of languages are used in Kickstart?
Okay, thank you.
Are we free to use? Are we free to use any language?
Thanks once more for that very good question. So each of the programming competitions, each of Google's programming competitions have no limits to the programming language that you can use. There are no restrictions rather to the programming language you can use. You are essentially free to use any of the languages that are available on the platform. And pretty much the majority of the languages that we programmers know are available. These include JavaScript, Python, C#, C++, Java, C. So all those very Go, all those very common programming languages. I believe it's every programming language, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, you do not have any restrictions imposed when it comes to a programming language to use. But like I mentioned earlier, be careful with the programming language you choose, because at the end of the day, you don't want to spend so much time in reinventing the wheel. That is creating your own data structures that a typical programming language should have. So for example, I wouldn't recommend that you use JavaScript, because JavaScript doesn't have very good data structures that you'd find in programming languages, like in more mature programming languages like C++, C, as well as C#, Java. Those have very, very good data structures that you would rely on, so that you don't re-implement them or reinvent them during the competition. Because the problems themselves are really, really exhausting. I wouldn't lie to you. So you wouldn't add the problem. You wouldn't want to add the problem of creating your own data structures in order to solve a problem. So I wouldn't recommend somebody to use JavaScript during these coding competitions because of its lack of data structures, or even Python. Python and JavaScript are scripting languages, so they lack most of the data structures that programming languages like Java and C# have, for example. So choose your programming language wisely. In as much as you are free to use any programming language, just make sure that you choose a good programming language that offers good data structures as well as good data structures. Hope that answers the question.
Yes, it does. I have another question. Are we allowed to use libraries in the competitions?
So libraries are not allowed automatically because what you use is you do not code. You submit your solutions in the platform itself. So the platform basically gives you a window in which you can write your code, or an IDE in which you can write your code. And that IDE does not support extra functionality that normal IDEs that you would use, like IntelliJ or even NetBeans or even Visual Studio Code. It doesn't offer all that functionality. So automatically, you are not allowed to use libraries, because using libraries would obviously amount to cheating. So you can you have to write your own code. If you remember one of the points that I emphasized earlier, to say it helps you to think independent, it's to have to foster independent reasoning. That's the whole essence of programming competitions, to foster your independent reasoning, to force you to solve problems in your own unique way, using your problem solving skills rather than relying on libraries that are out there that make the work so much easier for you. So libraries are not allowed automatically.
All right, thank you. I have one more question. Are we allowed to use? Are we allowed to change the programming language midway? Like maybe you started with Java and then midway say, no, let me use C#.
Okay, thanks once more for that question. So during the time that you'll be writing your code, the IDE allows you to change the programming language at any time, but you have to submit in one programming language, obviously. So if you started writing your code in Java, and then you say, looks like Java doesn't have the data structure I'm looking for, let me use C#. So you decide to move to C#, you write your code. So you are free to change as often as you would like, but once you submit, you're supposed to submit a solution that's obviously in one programming language. Hope that answers it.
All right, thank you. Yes, thank you.
All right.
Any other question? Oh, sorry.
I basically wanted to ask the same question, Jackson.
Okay. Alrighty. Any other question, guys?
Will the slide be shared?
Yes, I think that's not a problem. So let me just share my contact in the group.
So while Jackson is trying to share his contact, guys, I would love for us to have these coding competitions in one place. But I was looking at the restrictions especially for those coding competitions that are really long and that take place at night. It would be essential for us to have like food. So I was just worried about the cost of food, but if you guys are open to contributing money for food so that we can have these coding competitions in one place, it would be really, really nice, because they are really interesting. They are really very much nice in when you take part as a group, even for those that's required to participate individually, but because they're online, it's very nice to be in one place, as programmers and, get to share ideas and so on. So the only restriction is food restrictions. So it would require that, somebody puts up, somebody who's got enough money contributes all the money, or we decide to contribute money as individuals, so that at the time that each of these competitions starts, we actually have, we actually have food available, and then we can take place in the competition in one place. I hope you guys find that interesting enough to, give a contribution or so that we can be having these coding competitions in one place.
Oh, yes, it's interesting. I have one more question.
Okay.
Since we are encouraged to use, we're encouraged to use independent thinking, are we allowed to use APIs that have already been made, or we have to code the API from scratch? If maybe the problem that we are solving requires us to use an API.
Oh yeah. So this question is similar to the one that was asked earlier concerning libraries. So the nature of the problem themselves does not demand that you use any additional libraries. There are problems that can be solved just using the knowledge that you have with a particular programming language, or the skill that you have in a particular programming language. So again, automatically you are not allowed to use any APIs because of the nature of the coding environment that you're given. So the coding environment is a very simple IDE within on the website itself. So you are allowed to write all your code there, but you're not allowed, but it does not allow you additional functionality like adding libraries to it, aka APIs. So automatically you are not allowed to use them.
All right, thank you.
Patrick, you had a question you can ask.
Oh, I just wanted to say that the idea of meeting up during these competitions is very good. You just maybe have to inform us. I don't know, you, Jackson, the lead, via the group, or whenever we can contribute something if need be. That I'm not. That is that for hash code, and is it hash code and code jam? I think yes, we can participate because I really want to participate. Yeah, and so I was thinking like, oh, so should I set up everything like on my own here? But meeting up is very good, and I'm not so sure. So you people have participated these coding competitions. If you do meet up, and then it happens that you let's say you succeed, do you choose one participant there to proceed, or during your past coding competitions, you've never had a chance to reach the top something, who was selected to go out there, or what?
Oh yeah. Excuse me. So for coding competitions that require you to participate as an individual, as you move towards the finals, for example, Google Code Jam is an individual participation competition. So during the finals, you'll be participating in person. So obviously you wouldn't get assistance from your team members or the people that you are working with during the other rounds. So the whole idea of coming in one place is for us to qualify to higher rounds, because trust me, these coding competitions are not as easy as one may think they are. They require you to think very, very at a very, very high level for you to solve even a problem or two. But once you get the whole idea, and once you understand data structures, it becomes they become more manageable. And if you're working as a group, they're even more manageable than if you're working as an individual. So if you're working as a group, your friends may have an idea. So they'll be like, bro, you know what? I actually think I have an idea of how to do this. But if you're alone, when you're stuck, you're stuck. So the whole idea of coming in one place is not to say that we'll take part as a group in a programming competition that demands that you take part as an individual. It's just for us to share ideas during the online competitions that have no restrictions. But obviously, when you get to the finals where you are in person, you would go there as an individual. Hope that answers the question.
Understood. Thank you.
All right.
Okay, any other question?
Yes, I'm sorry, I just have one more question.
You can ask as many questions as you can, because at least this will even help others that are not here with us. When they watch the recording, it will be better. At least most of their questions will be answered as well through this.
How are the marks allocated during the competition? Does it include the time in which you managed to solve the problem?
So the rules, like I said, I didn't exhaust all the information. I basically tried to summarize the information so that it fits within the given hour that I was given. So the rules are that in some programming competitions, you'll be in some programming competitions, the marks actually get fewer as more and more the programmers solve the problem. So the more the problem is solved, the lower the points for that problem. Others, the points are static. For example, if a question carries 7 points, it would still carry 7 points no matter how many other programmers or other competitors solved it. So those rules you would want to look at. You would want to look at each of the individual websites for very, very specific rules that I didn't mention here. But what I've mentioned is basically how it is. Some programming competitions, points will reduce according to the number of people that solve the problem. Others, they'll be static. And yeah, hope that answers the question.
Oh, yes, I have one more question on the mark. Sorry. So let's say since we'll be using an IDE that has been made available to us, and then let's say we're used with another type of IDE, and then the one we have been given to use is giving errors. Even though the code is working. I don't know if that is possible, but let's say it has given errors in the code, but the code is working. Can that result in deduction of points?
So the idea is that if you solve a problem in, let's say, Visual Studio Code, it's working fine as expected, and then you put it in the ID that you are required to use, or you submit it, it should work. The behavior should be the same. Obviously, in the actual ID that Google gives you, it may not be as good as the one that you're used to, especially when it comes to giving warnings and all that stuff. Obviously, that is functionality that you would want if you make use of it. So what you can do is you can use the ID that you are familiar with, solve the problem, make sure it works, and then you transfer the code to Google's ID at the time of submission. So I don't expect the behavior of the program to change, but like I mentioned earlier, you are given time as well as memory limits. So you can't just, so solving the problem is not enough. You must, solving the problem or providing a solution to a problem is not enough. The solution that you provide must be able to solve the given problem within the given time limit. So they'll, for example, they'll give you a problem that says the time limit is 5 seconds. So that means your solution must be able to produce a solution within 5 seconds. If it doesn't, you get an error from Google ID saying time limit exceeded. If when it comes to memory, they'll give you a memory limit. They'll tell you to say your problem must be able to, your solution must be able to produce, must be able to solve this problem within 200 megabytes of memory. So if your solution does not produce, if your solution does not solve the problem within the given memory limit, you get a memory limit exceeded error. So in as much as your solution may work, it must be able to fit within the given time limit as well as the memory limit. Hope that answers the question.
Oh, yes, it does. Thank you.
Yeah, and just to add on, I think Muela should be coming from a background of doing a lot of web-based programming or scripting per se. Yeah, because initially the problems are structured in such a way that you don't need external maybe APIs or anything. So it will be a problem. I think most of them you just have to have a knowledge of data structures and algorithms. So it should work on almost any IDE that you're used with, or that you use most often. So that's just the nature of the questions. So it won't require you like maybe the way Node.js is, say, you know, you have to get some libraries and use them in the code. No, so I think it's highly unlikely that you find such. So the questions will be direct. Yeah, they are tough, but you know, I think it's easy to understand the question, but solving it is, oh, it's yeah. So I think
That's what they testify. That's what they testify.
yeah. Is there any other question?
Oh, thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome. Any other question from anyone else? Okay, so due to time, I think I'd like to thank everyone, Thomas, for sparing time once again to, you know, share this important information. And I'm glad people have already confirmed, like Patrick, that is interested and wants to, you know, participate in one of these. So I think I'll just share my screen within a few minutes. Okay, so yeah, I just wanted to make sure I recognize my team that have been, you know, effortlessly putting a lot of effort to ensure that we have events such as these. So that's basically the team for UNZA. And you know, if you can spot any name, you need some motivation or inspiration from time to time, you can get in contact with any of us on that poster. And also, one other very important thing is so you're the first ones to actually get this. We'll be having a game series, a game development series. We are planning on, you know, starting it on the 1st of February, going through to, I think, 8th February. So if everything goes well, we'll maintain those dates. Then we'll have a game development series where we'll start building a game whilst learning the, you know, some of the core of the programming language that will be used. Yeah, so all that will be communicated in the group and on all our platforms. Then the other thing is we have the solution challenge coming up. So let me just share the other very important. So this like we've talked about, you know, the coding competitions. So for the solution challenge, I can tell Mwelwa is into a lot of web development. So for people like Mwelwa, this is where now you provide solutions where you are not limited to just, you know, most of the problems being data structure and algorithm oriented. So for this one, you're at liberty. So we are just required to identify a problem as UNZA GDSC. Then we solve that particular problem using technology. Then we submit our solutions. So it has a couple of instructions that need to be followed. So hopefully this coming week we'll spare a day to just run through the solution challenge, an info session on the solution challenge and how you can go about it. So I felt it's important that I share this with every one of us present. Okay, so I think that that concludes it, but I would love us to do one more thing. So if you can, just kindly switch on your camera. So I want to do more like a screenshot of selfies so that we just have that group photo for our social media platforms. Awesome. So let me just stop sharing so that we have a bigger screen. Okay, 1, 2, 3. All smiles. All right, done. Thank you. I think someone
Oh,
raised
yes,
their
it was
hand
me. I
before we
wanted
go.
to ask if you're going to share the same picture or if there is some sort of confirmation that you attended the meeting for social media purposes.
Okay, yes. So I'm going to share the screenshots on Facebook. I think also on LinkedIn, probably Twitter as well.
Okay.
They're available, yes. Yeah, if anything, you can still get in touch with me. I think Lewis has dropped a link to our WhatsApp group.
Okay.
So just make sure you join the WhatsApp group as
Yeah,
well.
I think I'm there.
All right, sure. Thanks. All right, I think that concludes. Okay, Blessing.
Is it only limited to people from UNZA or it is open to everyone?
For the solution challenge or the group, for the group you can join.
All right, thank you.
Yes. Feel free to join. All right. If there is nothing else, I think we are done. So I'll just stop the recording